other screen. This is a little chart I made up. I would use this instead as a write it on the board or as a handout if we were all in the same room. But now it's on my screen, so that's an advantage of at least that we can do that. Ancestry and Family Search accomplish a lot of the same things, but they are different in some respects. So I want us to talk about those things so that we can understand would we want to use which one. So what is the purpose of Family Search? And I have told this story before, but one time we met my husband's distant relative in Salt Lake to get acquainted with her and to share some Hugo information. And one of the things she said to me is, she said, Nancy, your church just ought to put everything they have in this library on the internet. It's a shame that it's all just here in Salt Lake. And I said, Susan, you have no idea what you're talking about. This library and the affiliated records that are in the vault, there's so many billions of them that is absolutely impossible. It will never happen. You just really don't have a clue. And about 2 months later, President Hinckley held a press release in which he said, to the effect, the church has decided to digitize all of our holdings about family history from the library and from the vault, and make them available on the internet and make them searchable. And the reason we are doing this, in addition to making research easier, is we have too much temple work that is being duplicated, and we want to decrease the temple work duplication. And I thought, yeah, but that's such a huge project. I just don't see how it could ever happen. Well, now if I go to the library in Salt Lake, I am amazed at how many empty shelves there are, because book by book and microfilm by microfilm, as they have been digitizing them and putting them on Family Search, they've taken them off the shelves. And so something that I thought could never happen is happening. So the purpose for Family Search is to facilitate research on ancestral families and to provide temple ordinances, allow for us to provide temple ordinances for them, and to reduce duplication of temple ordinances. Now, Ancestry began before Family Search, and they started out as a goal, I think, to index some major records, and then they have grown and grown, and they are assisting Ancestry members with genealogical sources and tools. They have a lot more non-church members using Ancestry, perhaps, than Family Search does. I don't really know about that. One of the main strengths of Family Search is that there is one tree, and that one tree is available to all. Now, there's a couple of minor exceptions, but one tree that's available to all, and anybody that is interested in anybody in that tree, and it has millions of people in it, can change whatever they think needs to be changed.
If they're dead.
If they're dead. Okay, good comment. It is free. All of the indexing and other things that have been added to Family Search have been done through volunteers, members and non-members, but by volunteers. However, the church has hired very good programmers that have done algorithms which then make the records searchable. And those algorithms just add a whole new dimension to using Family Search. And that's why we had a whole lesson on following up with hints. Family Search allows for temple work submission if you're a member of the church. And then it has additional genealogical items such as the card catalog, the wiki, helps. I have to figure out how to raise that. Helps. and it has the ability to transfer some sources and information from Ancestry. The biggest complaint about Family Search is that since it's one tree, you can't lock somebody else out of what you put on. So that is what people say is a big disadvantage. And yet, the advantage is just the opposite. Since it's one tree that everybody can use, you can easily see what somebody else has found about a particular person.
That seems to be both an advantage and a disadvantage, because you have, I've gone on there several times to correct information, and then somebody goes back and uncorrects it, which then leads to, you know, some of these kind of patron wars where people keep making changes and then it gets changed back. And I don't know if that's
that's a big disadvantage, isn't it?
Yeah, that seems to have been a pretty big disadvantage for me, and one of the reasons why I've avoided Family Search, because I'm tired of putting information on there only to go back next week and have it been reversed.
Now, there's two, not solutions, but there's two things you can do. One is you can find out who submitted the information and who changed it and send them a message.
Yeah.
Sometimes their email is there. Sometimes you have to send it through Family Search itself.
Right.
Sometimes if they understand why, they'll leave it alone. Another thing that can happen in extreme cases is Family Search will lock it so that neither of you can add anything.
Yeah, I've heard that before too. We've had that issue.
Yeah. So that is definitely one reason why some people prefer Ancestry, is that.
Comment? Can I make one comment?
Yes.
I had a war once on Family Search where because she disagreed with us, she kept deleting the relationship.
Yeah.
And I kept trying to tell her to leave both relationships there. And she kept doing it to a point that I finally, there's a place where you can report them.
Yeah, you have to mediate it through Family Search.
Yeah, and she finally stopped.
Okay.
We've had issues where people have taken away ordinance from us as direct family members, and yeah, like Sister Rogers said, then you get into a bit of a war. If we're doing family research, I would rather not be in a war with anybody. I'd rather collaborate with somebody than be in a war with somebody.
Yes.
And that's why I reported them, is because they will gently tell them, you know, if you're not careful, you'll get taken away. They can do it instead of me.
Yeah.
Oh, my battery's low.
I have just discovered that my battery's about to die. So I didn't know it wasn't plugged in. I need to really quick plug it in.
I was going to say that for me, I've realized in the last.
I thought it was my battery.
No, that's my battery. Okay, very good.
Sister Chestnut had a comment.
Oh, I was just going to say, I have in the last month or two begun to think of Family Search in a different way. Is like, it's not, you almost need another place to put your permanent record that you know is correct according to your work. Yeah. And Family Search is more like a work in progress.
That's why I use Ancestry as my permanent place rather than exactly what you're talking about. I've had the exact same issue. I agree with you.
Okay.
You have to have a permanent place somewhere, whether it's Roots Magic or Ancestral Quest, or like you say on Ancestry. You have to have some pristine version that you can always go back to.
Okay, so now let's finish the second column in my chart. Ancestry's purpose is to assist Ancestry members with genealogy sources and tools. Their paid membership, because they're a paid membership, they can hire people to do indexing. And I think because of that, I think they're a little bit faster than the church is. They have the largest collection of computer searchable records. They also have algorithm assistance, which is very helpful. Now, this is what we've just been talking about. Each member may submit their trees, which they can choose whether they want to make them available to others as a public tree or whether to be private. No one can add or change your tree. It's only yours.
So I don't know if you're talking about something else or you can set a tree to have contributors, and you can give them the abilities to edit and contribute and be a guest. You can give them authority. So I have a tree that I have shared with my mother, and she can make changes on there if she wants to do that. So I mean, you can actually change a tree. You just have to give permission to the person to do it.
And you have chosen who you're inviting to that tree.
Right. It's not a one tree situation. You're right.
Alice and I tried to do this, and we have succeeded to a degree with her husband's tree, because she was asking for me to help her with trying to find out an end of the line ancestor, and we were both working on it, so we made a tree that we could share.
Yeah.
But I did not invite everybody in the world to do that. It's just her and me.
Yeah.
And so that means that I can choose which trusted person I want to share that tree with. Or maybe in this case, she decided that she trusted me and would share with me. But that's very limited, which still gives you more control over it than with Family Search. Another thing that I've done often with Family Search, I'm kind of going to go back to that, is there is a discussion tab on each person in Family Search. And so I make an explanation on the discussion. So, and you've heard me say, many of you have heard me say this before. On my Michael line, people keep wanting to change their name so that it's spelled M-I-C-H-A-E-L. And pretty much, if they initiated the record, it was spelled M-I-K-E-L. If somebody else initiated the record, they spelled it with the C-H. So I've explained that in the discussion, so that if somebody wonders why I have them listed as M-I-K-E-L instead of M-I-C-H-A-E-L, if they read that, then they can begin to understand. And then if they wanted to send me an email and ask me further questions about it, they could.
Sister Hugo,
yes.
Can you see living people in somebody else's tree in Family Search?
Only if you've also added them. However, that is one of the things that...
My own tree, yes, but I can't. Okay.
So if Alice and I are siblings, she can add all of her children and grandchildren's information, but I can't see it. So I can't look in her tree to find out. I can't look up in her tree under her son and find out when he got married.
My own tree has my wife in it, and it has an ID number associated with her. But in her tree, it has a different ID number associated with her. And I've always found that to be confusing and difficult, because it just seems like we're creating extra people.
Exactly.
I heard they're working on that. I heard a talk by I can't remember his name now, but he said that they're trying to work on that, where you can give permission to somebody to use the same number. Because like you say, they're going to end up with like 100 duplicates when that person dies.
Thousands of them, right? Yeah, I have duplicates of my wife's family, everybody who's living, which I don't quite understand.
And that is not a problem until they die, except that you can't find out what they know.
That's right.
And that is why the churches, the programmers are working on it. And I don't know why it's taken them so long to be working on it, but they probably have reasons.
Again, in your ancestry tree that you make, that you share with somebody else, you can opt to let them see the living people in your tree if you want them to.
Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about trees and ancestry. But so know that is a thing that they've been working on.
That's good to know.
Another thing they've been working on that's taken a really long time is what to do now that laws have been made for same-sex marriages.
Right.
And now they have figured that out. And now if you have a same-sex marriage in your family, that can be done. Whereas it used to be that if the person you entered was a male, their spouse could only be female. Or if you entered a female, their spouse could only be a male. And now you can set the sex on the spouse, which you
Good to
can
know.
do. So just like it took them a long time to get that done, that they did, it's taken them a long time to get living people in your family search tree, but they will. Something else that's a strength of Ancestry is that DNA testing is available and possible connections about DNA. They have some other genealogical tools along with a section for hiring professional researchers. Something they have done is the ability to transfer some sources and some information to and from Family Search. And when I found that out, I was very delighted because I did not know that option existed. A disadvantage of Ancestry is that it costs money. Although members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are given free memberships with some limitation to the memberships. Another disadvantage is it is difficult to check all of the public trees to see the information that others have already found on my family. So maybe 25 people have submitted a tree about my ancestor, and I have to sort through all 25 trees, if they have been made public, in order to be able to see what they already know about my ancestor. And that can take quite a bit of time. Okay, now let's go to the beginning. If you don't have an Ancestry account, how do you get the Ancestry account? So we're going to start by going to Family Search. And this is how Family Search opens up on mine. Now, if I go to Help under Family Search, no, that didn't do it, did it? Now I'm going to have to figure out how to get my option of everybody that's here out of the way. You know, every now and again they change things and I have to figure them out. I'm looking for the option, and it used to be under Help. Here it is now. That's called Help Center. So it's under the question mark. And now I go to down here to this icon where people are shaking hands, and that is our partners. And so I check on our partners, and I check partner access, because Family Search is partners with many other companies. And so here is the list of them. And it says create your personal accounts with these partners this way. So you click on, and this is only if you are a member of the church. You click on ancestry.com where it says join for free, and you can also click on each of those other partner sites. Then when you get this, then you click on either create your free Ancestry account. Then if you already have an Ancestry account, you click on sign in to connect to your account. So if you have ever had an Ancestry account, but you don't remember the password, that's still the route that you would take to be able to get the help that you need to find out what your password was and your email that you used ages ago when you first set up an account, which you did not keep paying for, or if you are paying for it still. But as church members, we want to use the free one. So we would click there and follow the instructions and go on through and give them our Family Search logins, I think, and other things to create our free account. Is there anybody here that does not have, oh, Brother Chestnut, you don't?
Not yet.
So this is how you would do it. You would click on this button, and I did not practice this in preparation for my lesson to find out exactly, to be reminded of exactly what things they ask you for. It might be your church membership number. In fact, that's likely what it is, or it might be your Family Search sign-in. But that is how you go about doing it. Now, once you have done that, then this is what your welcome screen is going to look like, except yours will be personalized to you on Ancestry. Now, if you come over to your login place, it will ask you, what is your profile? And if you click on your profile, it will tell you a few things about your access to Ancestry. And one of the things that it lists here is my family trees. And it says that I have 3 family trees. I have my tree that I call Nancy for Ancestry. That's the one I created at the beginning of my Ancestry time. Well, actually not. I created it about a year ago. And because I always before, I would choose the option, one of the options when you are first setting up your account is import 4 generations from Family Search. Well, 4 generations from Family Search is not enough for me. So I had to use another source, which we'll talk about later. Then we have my Colby family tree, and we have not made that one public. You see, it's got a little lock on it. And then there's the Clark family tree. And the Clark family tree was research that I did because I had a problem. I could not understand in my brain why, according to Ancestry's DNA, my children had more relatives that came through the Cumberland Gap with Daniel Boone than I had. And I could not figure out how that could be because it was my ancestors that came through Cumberland Gap with Daniel Boone. And then I had the brilliant idea one day that, oh, it's because my husband's birth father must have had ancestors that came through the Cumberland Gap with Daniel Boone. So I wanted to research his birth father enough to find out if they had ancestors that came through Cumberland Gap with Daniel Boone, and they did. So that DNA question is now answered. So those are my trees. Some people like to divide their trees down so that if they have a large tree on their father's side and a large tree on their mother's side, that they're more workable. And so my husband's tree is Hugo, and I don't have access to it. But I really, the 8,000 people that are in my Nancy for Ancestry file, that's enough for me to deal with. I don't need to deal with his at the same time. So that is what my profile looks like. Okay, this top row here is the things that we're going to need the most. So I already showed you my home page. We'll go back to that and you can see what that is. And it's going to give me a few other things of information, but mostly the 2 parts I need to know about are trees and search. Now, Ancestry is the same as Family Search in that the site has 2 main parts. One part is family trees, the pedigree charts and the family group sheets. The other part is the records that have been indexed and are available for searching. So in Family Search, it's called Tree and Search. And in Ancestry, it's called Trees and Search. So if I click under Trees, now I'm going to have to move this again. I see that I have the 3 trees we've already talked about. I have the option of importing a tree from Family Search, but as I told you, I can only import from Family Search 4 generations, and that would be starting with me, or else it would be 4 generations from the last person on a tree. So if the last person on my tree was Hugh Michael, then I could import 4 generations of Hugh Michael from Family Search. One of these things here that's called Create and Manage Trees. And if we click on that, again, it gives me the names of my trees, and it tells me that I have invited people. So on my family tree overview for my Clark family, it will say that I have invited my son Chet, who hasn't responded, my husband, who hasn't responded, my daughter Lily, who hasn't responded, and my son Mike, who hasn't responded. So apparently they aren't as concerned about why they have more ancestry that came through the Cumberland Gap with Daniel Boone than I am. So, and I think once I found that, I kind of solved it. I don't need it very much anymore either. If I choose instead let's see, my ancestry tree, my Nancy for Ancestry tree, if I check to manage it, what is it going to tell me about it? It's going to tell me that I've invited 1 person to share it with me, and it was my sister Alice, and that she can be allowed to see living people and to remove people if she finds somebody that's not there. Has she responded? I am thinking that she hasn't responded either. But nonetheless, this is what Doug said earlier. By using this, you can do that. I can click on tree information about this tree, and I can write a description about it. And I can say, who's the home person in my tree? Well, I wanted my living ancestor to be the first person, because I'm not using this tree to keep track of my mother's descendants, but just her ancestors. I could set preferences on how I deal with trees, and if I wanted to share this tree with somebody else, I could make a GEDCOM file from there. Privacy settings. So that's an important one, because sometimes you want it public, which means that anybody that wants to look at it can look at it. They can't change it, but they can look at it. But I could have set it as private. So, and this means that nobody else can see it but you. This option is a good one for you if you want to make an ancestry tree that is your master record, that nobody else can deal with, but that you can use to keep your records. Now, I don't use it this way, but lots of people do, and more people are doing it. I like to keep all of my master copies in Ancestral Quest. Ancestral Quest is the program that took over when the church quit supporting PATH, Personal Ancestral File. Nowadays, the BYU classes recommend that you use, I'm wanting to call it Tree Magic. That's wrong. What is it, Diane?
Magic.
What?
Roots Magic.
Roots Magic.
Roots Magic.
It's called Roots Magic.
But don't feel pressure from BYU. I still use Ancestral Quest.
Okay. At the time that Ancestral Quest, that the church quit supporting PATH, that was the first time they opened up partnerships to Family Search. And so they opened it up, and Ancestral Quest, Legacy, and Roots Magic could import and export information from them to Family Search. And that's worth a whole separate lesson. Fewer and fewer people are using their own private database outside of Ancestry. As time goes on, more and more people are using Ancestry with a private account, a private tree, as their master file. Everybody else, if you're interested, tell me what you use. And Mike, what we're doing today is we are unmuting ourselves so that when we want to make a comment, we can feel free to go ahead and make it. So welcome, Mike. And if you want to go down and unmute yourself, feel free to do so. Okay, and I'm glad that you could join us. Doug, what do you do for your master file?
Mine's an Android. The main reason for that is I work on a variety of different computers, and I need to have this basically accessible in the cloud. So if I have something that's like Ancestral Quest that is OS specific, if it's Mac or Windows specific, and I need to go elsewhere, I don't have access to that, then I've got a problem. So everything for me is Family Search #2 and Ancestry #1. Okay.
That is very common answer today in the church. Diane, what do you do?
I have my pristine version on Ancestral Quest, and I basically use Family Search because I do have my pristine version. I have everything on Ancestry, but I haven't been keeping it up.
But you do a lot of Ancestry research.
Well, I do Ancestry research, that is true, but I mean, I use it almost exclusively, well, that and Family Search, but as far as the tree is concerned, I can't keep up with all of them.
No, we would go crazy if we tried to keep up with all of them, wouldn't we?
Sister Hugo, really quick, I do work for other people too, and so I create little branches, not full trees, but branches that I create on Ancestry, and then I can share those with people. I can either just export a JEDCOM and give it to them, or have them get onto Ancestry, or the other associates and researchers that I work with are all on Ancestry too, so I can just share these small little branches that I make with them.
Good point. I have made small little branches like that for MyHeritage, because I really like the way that MyHeritage connects you to other sources and other people. So I have done that on all of my end of line that I'm working on more or less in the future. I have those kinds of small trees on MyHeritage. Anybody else want to tell us what they use? Okay, so that is private. We've talked about that option. So now I'm going to go back again, and I'm going to show you what it took me a long time to discover that is really neat. And probably, I hope that for some of you this is new, but maybe it won't be. So here is my initial tree on Ancestry. So if I click on my grandpa, and if by clicking on him, I'm going to get his profile page, or a card that leads me to his profile page. And look what just happened immediately. And I don't know if you were quick enough to notice the change, but the three main tools here for Ancestry members are here on the right top. And because I'm a member of the church, when I first opened up my grandpa's account, I got this little icon that had the family search tree. Then I can click on that icon, and it's going to give me 4 options. And these are what really makes a difference for church members. And maybe all of you knew this already, maybe you're already doing it already. But it tells me immediately that my grandpa's ordinances have all been complete. His LDS temple ordinances have been complete. It gives me the option to click here and compare, with one side of the screen being family search and one side of the screen being Ancestry. I can compare him on both platforms. If I click view this person on family search, it will immediately take me to family search and to his page on family search. Then if family search has relatives about him that are not in Ancestry, I can click here and add them. Or if I didn't want to know that they were both on Ancestry and family search, I could click on that button. That ability right there is what makes Ancestry easy for LDS members. Now, if you don't have the free account through the church, that doesn't work. But did you all know about that little button already?
No. Oh, that's great.
Not to that extent. No, that's great.
Good. So isn't that wonderful?
The two don't override each other, right? I mean, if somebody changes something on family search, it's not going to kick it over to Ancestry.
Yeah, it can.
Yeah.
If it's you, because if you on Ancestry, you are only dealing with your tree is only you, so you're the only person that can do that. On family search, if you throw it over to family search, yes, it's accepted, and because it's an open tree, anybody else could do it too.
But what you're saying, you're asking if it won't automatically change your Ancestry. If they change something in family.
You have to tell it to. You have to click on the add button. And I kind of had trouble finding samples where that would work as I prepared for my lesson, because the people that I've done it on, I've already finished. So I had trouble finding one that was open to do that with. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. Now, let's talk a little bit about what Ancestry shows about my grandpa. The first thing it shows is a life story. This little life sketch of his was written by the computer. the computer doesn't know anything about my grandpa except what it could assume. So it could tell his name, it could tell his birth, it could tell his birthplace, but it does it in sentence form instead of in fact form. So you could find a little bit out about him, but it's all computer generated. A map of the places that he was, and then it takes all of the information from his page and puts it in timeline order. And Family Search does that too now, you know. The facts page is the page that more closely applies to our main page on Family Search. And so it's going to include the timeline, and then over here under Family is the information that we would get if we look down under details on Family Search and saw this family. But then we're going to see this middle step that is sources. So the first source that it lists is another JITCOM file that I submitted to Ancestry once upon a time that it's using for a source. And so it's called For Ancestry, My Michael Family. Okay, and what's a JED? A JED is a computer program that you use from a non-web, so it wouldn't be available on every computer, just by, so this is my PAP file, as I prepared it in a form that's transferable to another computer. And then it shows as another source, World War II draft registration cards. Under gallery, it's going to show me any pictures of him. Yes.
Some of those siblings weren't all, or children weren't all right. It listed Pearl, but it didn't list Aunt Merle. I'm just saying that.
And why doesn't it list Aunt Merle?
Just
must have been that Aunt Merle hadn't died yet when I first did it. But yes, it should list Aunt Merle. Aunt Merle is Pearl's twin sister. Okay, so let's go through these sources and let's click on Search on Ancestry and see what happens. Okay, it says that there are lots of results for Claude Walter Everett. Now these are going to be the same as the little leaf on Ancestry means this is a hint that has been found by an algorithm. And so this is the list of those hints. And so I kind of wanted to go through them and choose the one that says find a grave. I'm always interested when I find a picture of somebody that was taken by, that was prepared by my mother. And I can tell that that picture was prepared by my mother. And it's on here as a hint that somebody else submitted. That always interests me. Okay, so I was going to do, as a sample, I was going to do find a grave. So this says that find a grave lists somebody that they think is my grandpa. So I'm going to click on view details, and I am going to see the information from the record just as you would on Family Search. And so it's going to tell me that somebody's got that on Family Search, that on Find a Grave, there's a picture of his tombstone, 2 pictures of his tombstone. And it is going to go through and give me the information about him. Now I'm going to have to compare that information before I know that it's him. I've already done that and I know that that's him, so I'm going to click Save. And it's going to give me the option, who do you want to save it to? Well, I want to save it to Claude Walter Everett. If it didn't find Claude Walter Everett for me, then I could tell it Claude Walter Everett and it would. Now, it has not yet saved this to my tree. It has just given me the option to look at it more. So this is the same as the attached screen in Family Search. Now, on the left is what Ancestry has just pulled up. On the right is what is already in my tree. So I can look, and it gives me options here to click on things. Does this source tell me anything new about his name? No. Anything new about his birthplace? No. It gives it more detail, so I could click on place, and then it would add United States of America. Death information is the same. I could click on place, and it would add United States of America. There's nothing new. Oh, it says it knows the burial date, which I didn't know. So I can click there, and now it's going to add it to what the Find a Grave record, I don't know how it can add it to the Find a Grave record, but it has a square then. Then it gives me the option, if I didn't already know about my grandmother, it would give me the option to go through the same process for my grandmother and for their deceased children. Then after I have done that, then I can save it to my family tree, and it will save it to my family tree in Ancestry. So now my family tree in Ancestry will say for his birth, it's going to say United States of America, where it didn't before. And instead of having to click on a separate tab to get sources, it now will list this source here. Now, something that I might have noticed when I was looking at it before, if I can follow the right procedure, maybe I have to click on sources. Search on Ancestry, I think is what I have to search on.
Right.
I do not do Ancestry as much as some of you do. Okay, so it's going to give me these other things that the algorithms have already found. At some point in that matching procedure, it also gave me a list of other records you might want to search. So immediately this gave me access to his searching records. So on Family Search, this search option is a little bit different because I have to follow a tool through, or else I have to say in my brain, oh, maybe he would be in a census record. Oh, maybe he would have a marriage record. Whereas when I do this search on Ancestry, it is going to give me all of those in one list. So where you get your hints one at a time, or three at a time, on Family Search, here it gives me all of the lists at once. And as I go through these, I can tell that a lot of them are duplicates. Two different people have added his picture. Several different people have added his cemetery stone. But I can go through all of those and I can see all of the different possible sources that the algorithms have found for me in one place. And that is a real benefit.
Rick and Nancy,
Uh-huh.
it listed his child as Roy. Wouldn't that be Leroy?
Yes.
I'm just saying that.
But I haven't worried about that because I'm more about the end of the line than I am my uncle that I already know enough about. So you know, how dedicated should I be in adding and correcting every piece of information? I think I should do anything that's within sanity. Okay, now I have come to Family Search, and I'm opening up the tree, and I'm seeing or will soon see my pedigree chart, and I will click on my grandfather, and I'll get his index card, then I'll click on his name and get his card, or his page. Now this is interesting. If I click on Ancestry, it is going to take me to his Ancestry page, and what Ancestry is giving me as hints about him. I can go that quickly from searching on Family Search to searching on Ancestry and having the list of Ancestry hints. That is a real blessing to be able to do that quickly. Now, the same will hold true with the other Family Search partners that I have joined. So, what are the biggest available, what of those things in my mind makes it good to use both Family Search and Ancestry? Which things have you found that make it good to use Family Search and Ancestry? Any answers?
On the aggregate for me, and this is a very generic claim, a very generic assumption. On the aggregate for me, as I'm hypersensitive and I hyperventilate over vetting each of these hints in both and in Family Search, the collaboration notes and the memories notes. I'm hypersensitive about vetting every single one of those. I spend a lot of time going through, in as much as I can, on every single hint, every single collaboration note that's made, and vetting it with another source that I can find. Either it's in a printed book somewhere, or at least I've got one or two other sources somewhere that tell me, yeah, that 1743 is right, and whoever else has put it in a 1745 has got it wrong. So I spend a lot of time to vet this stuff, and on the whole, again, this is a generic statement for me, on the whole, the algorithm hints that come to me from Ancestry tend to be more accurate than the ones I get through Family Search. That's just, again, it's a general statement. It's a very broad statement. If I get 10 from Ancestry and I get 10 from Family Search, 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, the ones I get from Ancestry tend to be more accurate, and I can vet them. That said, what's accurate? But that on the whole has been my experience.
Well, that is interesting, and I'm glad to hear that. I do think we need to really pay attention as we accept those hints. For example, one of my ancestors, the algorithm came through with the idea that they had children born in England. When they were born in England and moved to the United States, before they married, all of their children were born in the United States.
Yep.
Maybe there was somebody else with the same name in England, but it was not my ancestors. And yet they're listed as children on Family Search because somebody accepted the hint.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm not positive, but I think that I have disconnected that and that it's been put on again. But anybody that used their brain would see that you probably didn't have your children blessed in England, in the Church of England, when you lived in the United States.
Exactly. I have the same issue. The other one that I find frustrating very often is we know that families tended to be larger when we go back into the 1700s and the early 1800s. We tend to see the same kind of names over and over again. Your Peters and your Richards and your English Christian names. It frustrates me when I go to Family Search and I find many children who are born allegedly prior to the year of marriage. That's pretty atypical for that time period. Obviously, we know that it happens, and everybody's got a family story, a hush-hush story where somebody was born, or a husband and wife got married because they had to, and all of that. But by and large, that didn't happen. And when you find 2 and 3 and 4 children who are born prior to the union of the family, that drives me nuts when I see that.
And you know that's probably because somebody was doing shoddy research.
That's exactly right.
Or weren't researching, just accepting.
Yeah, they're just accepting, right? That's what I was saying before. I hyperventilate on the hints. I hyperventilate on vetting every single one.
I think a lot of it is they're making those, they're thinking they're duplicates and they're not checking. That's why I get frustrated with some of the things on Family Search, is because people just assume that because they have the same names, they're the same people, and without double checking to make sure.
Okay, so here I am guilty. I have a husband named Charles Vaughn. I have a son named Charles Vaughn. I have a grandson named Charles Gunner. So that's 3 Charles Hugos. Then I have a grandson, Charles Prince. Then I have a grandson, Charles Mack. Yeah. So what did I do? I contributed to that. Or maybe my husband contributed to
Oh,
it
you didn't
by being
contribute.
somebody that was neat enough that other people wanted to name their children after him.
Kept good records. You're okay.
Um, and again, that for some reason that reminds me also of this is why Charles and I have tried to be very open about the fact that his stepfather did not adopt him until after we were married. So he grew up under the name of Charles Clark. I married him under the name of Charles Clark. He is now Charles Hugo, but I have records and he has records that were generated when our last name was Clark. And we have tried to be very open, both in person and in discussions and notes on Family Search as to what happened, so that there's no shame or whispering about it, that people know right off it just was that his stepfather didn't adopt him until after we were married, until we asked for it. Because when his stepfather asked him when he was a little boy, can I adopt him? Can I adopt you? He thought that if he was adopted, he would become a different person, and he liked who he was. So we want to make sure that our family knows about that. Now, a minute ago, I thought of one other thing we needed to talk about on Ancestry, and I don't think I can pull up the screen, but once you have found sources in Ancestry, you can get a compare source between where Ancestry shows up on one half of the screen and Family Search shows up on the other half. So not your ancestry tree, but your family search for that person. And you can go through and click the little boxes just like we did before. And then that's how you can move that source to Ancestry. From Ancestry to Family Search. So if you find somebody on Ancestry and you know it's them, and you know who for sure it belongs to on Family Search, you do not have to create a new record on Ancestry, but you can move it over. And the way that you know that has happened. What? Pardon? Say that again.
Can you show that?
I don't hear you, Doug. Say it louder.
Can you show where you're doing that?
I did not prepare one by practice. I'll have to look. So I'll look in just a minute.
Okay.
If I go to Family Search and look under sources, if I look at the icon beside the different sources, if the icon came from Family Search, it will be the Family Search icon. If I originated the source by myself, it's going to have this kind of an option. So like I found the final homestead papers from his homestead. I got those from the Bureau of Land Management myself. I did not get them from Ancestry or any other source. And looks like all of these sources from my grandfather were found on Family Search. But if one of these icons, instead of being a Family Search tree, was a world, then it would have come from Ancestry. And then I would know that whoever found that source found it on Ancestry and used this method for switching it over rather than creating a new source. So how would I do that? Let's go back to Ancestry. Let's go back to the other sources. I think that an example will be the 1885 Colorado census, in which he was known by his middle name instead of by his first name. Okay, so here is that census. I've looked at it today. It is his census, although Charles J. is misread from the census. They did not have a brother named Charles J. So I click on save. This says save it to someone in my tree. So I'm going to have to say Claude Walter, C-L-A-U-D-E, and it gives me the drop-down list. I can choose Claude Walter Everett that was born in 1884, not his son, who has the name reversed. attach, save it to my tree. I would go through the different parts and see which ones needed to be moved over, and it's already told me that it likes better. No, they're the same. Maybe since it says new here, they've already moved it over. I click save to my tree. And now we're going to see if this is going to give me the option to do what I just told you about. I don't think that I'm going to be able to use this one as an example. So how do we, Diane, can you tell us how we get to an example where on the left side of the screen is the ancestry record and the right side of the screen is the family search record, and we transfer over the source?
Oh, I don't know any tricks. All I do is I copy and paste the URL. I just create a record. I copy and paste the URL. Then I copy the name, the title, put the title in, and.
Well, you don't have to. If we remember how to move it over,
well,
we can.
Because I don't work in my tree in Ancestry, so I just if there's a place on where you're talking about here, I'm not.
So Doug, I can't give you a better answer, and I should be able to.
Okay, I just didn't know if there. I mean, I've done similar. I can jerry rig it too. I just didn't know if there was a slicker way about.
Well, I used to wonder how come it was such a chore for me and it wasn't for other people, and that's the answer. It's because I was creating it from basics and they weren't. So how do you create it from basics on Family Search? You go to sources, you choose add a source, add a new source,
right,
and then it walks you through what to do.
Yeah.
So that's how we do that.
That's fine. That's fine. I don't do a lot of work in Family Search, again, for the reasons I said earlier. I just didn't know if there was some sort of super slick way about it. If you found, admittedly, I have found things from time to time in Family Search that are not in Ancestry and want to make sure that I carry those over. And there isn't a super nice way to do it. So as Sister Rogers said, we hand do it. We copy over URLs and we make new sources and we add them and all that kind of stuff.
And we can certainly do that.
And
if it's somebody we're specifically researching, we probably want to go to that trouble.
Yeah.
If I know of a source for my grandfather that I already feel very confident about what I know about my grandfather, and I really am more interested in his fifth great grandfather, then I'm not gonna usually go to the bother to do that.
It's very interesting to utilize the in Ancestry, the little Family Search box, the little wormhole between the two, because you can connect people up over, and then you can find a person to add. You can add them. You can kind of jerry rig, pulling some of their at least just their basic foundational data over. But if you're looking for something specific, you're gonna have to cut and paste and all of that. But
yes.
I'm experimenting with that. I'm looking at some folks that are early Long Island 1650 people, and I just happened to connect this particular person with the same record on Family Search and found a couple other children that I didn't have. And so I'm interested to kind of use that wormhole to maybe pull some of that information over and then see how.
And is this the real wormhole you're talking about that I pulled up on the screen?
Yeah, pulling some of that stuff over.
And I can't help but think that as time goes on, Ancestry and Family Search are even going to find a few more good ways to help us out that way.
Yeah, definitely. Ancestry knows that most of their user base are members of the church, and so they've got to find good ways to keep
Ancestry has to stay friends with the church, because the church has records in the vault available that Ancestry wants. And the only way that they can get them from the church is if they're our friend.
Yeah.
So they're trying very hard to be the church's friend. Any other questions or comments about Ancestry and Family Search working together?
Nancy, I'd like to make one.
Okay.
Today I had to get on Jill's Ancestry because I wasn't set up yet. But anyway, and it goes back about 5 generations, I think, that I don't have a set of parents, and there was no. I checked all the sources in Family Search, or I mean Ancestry, and it was pretty limited. And the only thing it indicates that he was born in Indiana. There's no information, and that's on a let's say the 1860 census and the 50. He just keeps saying he's from Indiana. There has been something in the family to say that possibly that he was related to Cherokee ancestry, and that I might find something with Oswald. Well, anyway, what took me to Ancestry is because I thought the sources were more extensive, and I ended up finding a lot of tribal records. And I found, because he was living down close to that area, close to Oklahoma and western Missouri, claims he was from Indiana. But the only thing that I have that he's from Indiana is by his say-so during during the census records. So anyway, I thought possibly maybe he was from, he has some tribal parents. I didn't know. But so I checked, and I found different tribes, and they had the Indian name, and then next to it they had the English name that was given to that child. And there were some that from different tribes that matched his name. And so I'm trying to search. I'm really searching in the dark, trying to find. So my first experience with Ancestry is I feel like, maybe it has more sources that are available that haven't been submitted by somebody who's been working on family. Where am I at? I get mixed up there.
That's a great point.
Family Search. Sorry.
Okay, now one thing you need to realize is that when we click on search on Ancestry, what we're going to get is the hints or the leaves. But when we really get into serious family search research, we say, which record might have my ancestor? And then we use the search button and we search for specifics instead of just going with hints. So some people think that the only sources are the ones that have been listed under hints or leaves. And in fact, there's millions of records that have not been listed as hints that we find by going to search and searching in the original records. So what else you need to do is meet with either Diane or I, and Diane's better than I am, and say, which other records should we look at that maybe aren't hinted yet in order to find this person? And one of the things we'll tell you is find them in every census in their whole life. That's the first thing to do. But go ahead, Diane.
Can I tell you something fun about Oklahoma? You said Oklahoma, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Near Oklahoma, he said.
They have what's called the Indian Pioneer Papers that were created during the WPA years, when they were trying to put together projects for people. And so they went into early Oklahoma and they interviewed all the people that had been there on Indian land. And so there's all these interviews and they're all indexed. Now, if you have Native Americans, they may or may not be in these, but if you have early Oklahoma people, you want to check this index because they have biographies on these people.
And what's it called?
It's called the Indian Pioneer Papers. I can get you the link for it. You can find it either on the wiki. I did the piece for it that's on the wiki for Family Search. But if you just Google it, let me see if I can Google it and see if it'll come up. It's just so fun because I found something on a client that I had.
I just put it in the chat window.
Oh, you did already? Okay, cool.
Oh, okay. Great.
Thank you.
But there's more than one level of family history work. One level is where we just do the low hanging fruit. We just do the hints. We just do those kinds of things. The other one is where we say, this is what information is missing. Where might I find that specific information? And that's where the source we go to. And a lot more people can do family history today than could 10 years ago because they can use these hints that we didn't have 10 years ago. So, but still sometimes we have to resort to, okay, what are the sources either that haven't been indexed yet, or that are not available, or the name might be listed differently, or something else. So we have both of those to do. Yes, Doug.
I don't recall this earlier. In Ancestry, as you're looking there is that section called Gallery, and most people think that's just for pictures. It's really not. There are other documents that may have been tagged with your relative's name, and if they are tagged with your relative's name, and you have that source connected to your person on your tree, it will show up in your gallery. So, for example, I may find a family history that says I married so and so and we had 9 children and their names are blah, 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 blah. Instead of copying that 9 times and putting it on everybody else's page, I tag that with the names of those parents plus the 9 people. Once those are tagged, that will show up on all of those records within Ancestry. So I do it once and it shows up everywhere else, and that shows up in the gallery.
Okay, that's good to know. I did not know that was in Ancestry.
Yeah,
in Family Search, that's under Memories, and under Memories, they have a section for documents and a section for stories.
Yep.
And so you can do the same way to tag each of those people in Family Search. And I'm glad to know that you can do that in Gallery as well.
Yeah.
Because if you've got a picture or a document or a story that includes many members of the family, you want that hooked onto every member of the family.
Right.
So that's good. And sometimes even to non-members of the family. An example of that was when my dad's high school and elementary school buddy wrote my brother a 13-page letter of memories and told about other friends. I tagged it both for my dad and his family and for his friend, so that his friend's family now can look on Family Search and read about their dad's memories with my dad.
I should be able to.
So that's a wonderful feature to be able to do that kind of tagging. We have not talked much about how to import a GEDCOM. That I think would be covered when we have a lesson on your own database. So if you need to know that sooner, then call Diane or I and we'll figure out how to help you do that. That would be if you have already your family tree created on Path or Ancestral Quest or Roots Magic or Legacy or another genealogy program.
Looks like Brother Chestnut had a question or a comment.
Oh, please.
Honey?
What?
He said it looked like you had a comment.
Oh,
Did you have a comment, Brother Chestnut?
could you put that up again? I'm going to try and do a screenshot with that. We couldn't write
Of
it
the
down.
link.
Of that link that you had.
The link to Indian Pioneer Papers.
If you open up the chat window, go down to the bottom of your screen. There's a little area that says chat down there at the bottom.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Press that. You're going to get a little area over to the right side, and it'll show all of the things that we've had in the chat thus far. You can copy any of those that you need to.
Oh, and I am not seeing that at all, probably because I'm seeing my screen.
Right.
So I have not known that anybody was making comments.
Yeah, I added a few things in there that you've talked about or that were asked about. So Diane mentioned the Pioneer Papers. I added links to those in there in case somebody wanted to have those.
John,
Great.
were you the one who needed to look up some things on newspapers.com? Did Nancy tell you that I have access to that?
That's great. She mentioned either coming over, just kind of sneaking into the building at one point because I have a key, or contacting you.
Oh, okay.
I'll figure out this week when I've got the time to do it, and I'll go either way.
Yeah, you can do either one. And if you just want to do it from home and it's just a 1 or 2 or something, let me know because I have access to it at home.
That's interesting.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I spent a lot of time in there over the weekend, but there are some things that won't let me do. So I'll figure it out. Anyway, thank you for checking up. I appreciate that.
That reminds me, is it premature to make an announcement? Diane, if you need to tell me to shut up, you can tell me to shut up. It doesn't look like she's going to tell me to shut up.
Yeah, make the announcement.
We have at our Family History Center lots of wonderful resources. Among them are our Nauvoo, the 7-volume set of Nauvoo baptism records. We have Pioneer Women of Fortitude in Utah, a 5-volume series. We have Photoshop elements on one of our computers, and arriving next week is a high-speed photo scanner.
Yeah, I got permission to buy it.
Now, how can we deal with these wonderful resources with a closed center? Diane has made the decision that members of our 2 stakes can schedule an individual appointment to go in and use the Family History Center in certain situations, even though it's closed. And Doug Stringham happens to have a copy to the Family History Key already because he's in our stake presidency over family history. So if he lets us know that he's going over, he can go over and use the center when nobody else is there. The rest of you can call and schedule an appointment, and we'll arrange to have somebody from the Family History Center let you in and be there while you're using it. We think this high-speed scanner is going to be really important to a lot of members of our state.
Yeah, that's cool.
My husband wants me to say something about the missionaries. Oh, the missionaries sometimes are also in the Family History Center, so we have to schedule it when they're not there or when
they are there, so we have protection.
But not on P-Day when they have 10 companionships there.
When is P-Day, by the way?
Monday.
Oh,
I think
okay.
I'm pretty sure it's Monday.
And
so on transfer day, just about every companionship in the area comes, and they take over the cultural hall and take turns in the Family History Center, because it's one of the only places that has room for all of them at the same time. And they are very thankful to be able to have use of the building.
Although if they want to use the high-speed scanner, that's a good day to do it, because at least you're safe to be there. And they're not going to be using the high-speed scanner. So
and we do not. It's better, we think, if most people are not in the Family History Center alone. So we're still kind of working out details about which of our workers want to go over and be there extra in order to be able to allow access to the scanner. But a lot of people have that huge box of old photos that have just been too much to deal with one at a time. And so we're very happy to be getting the high-speed scanner. Now, this was supposed to be an hour lesson, and it's an hour and 20 minutes. Who has any more questions or comments? Who, would you please tell me what?
It's very appropriate for where I'm at right now. So I really appreciate you addressing this tonight.
Good. My next question, I'm going to take a minute. What lessons would you like me to do in August? The rest of August?
Nancy, what are our choices?
Well, we can start. This is your introduction to Family Search if you've never seen it before. We can do how to do research beyond hints. We can do what you should know about the census. We can do, I'd really like to do family history because I feel guilty, but I really don't know what to do first. We could do migration trails. We could do so many things. Where are you at? What do you want to do next? Are you ready for an introduction to Family Search, starting with getting your Family Search account?
I feel guilty, and I know I need to do Family Search, that one.
Well, Angel, you are doing Family Search, but that's what you'd like. Okay, any other comments?
And I'd also like to be one of the guinea pigs for the high-speed scanner to go and try that out first.
Okay. Send me your preference of appointment times. Okay?
Okay. Will do.
Everybody else do the same thing. Send Diane or I your preferred appointment times. Yes, Doug.
This is kind of a very specific niche thing. I'm trying to determine how people traveled in the 1700s and the 1800s. There wasn't a highway system. There was barely even a road system. I'm trying to determine how people migrated across the state or across a couple of states, as I'm trying to recreate the narratives of certain people going from east to west. I'm really interested to try and figure out how they did it. And I'm just wondering if you between the two of you, if you've got anything that points towards records of early travel patterns within the United States, early road systems within the United States, something like that.
Most of
on
my
the
knowledge,
wiki? Have you looked on the Family Search Wiki? I thought somebody had created something on there.
Here and there, I end up finding things that that are earlier, or that are later road systems, like Cumberland and some of the other later road systems that showed up just after the founding of the country, and into some of the more of the major road systems, rather than
you're looking in colonial times, not
right. I'm looking at
post-Revolutionary War
times.
times.
I'm looking at early. So I've got a family that I'm trying to trace. I can't figure out how they got from New Hampshire to western New York. I figured out. I think I figured out why they got there, but I can't figure out how they got there. You can Google map anything, but
Well, I just saw on the wiki that's called British Colonial American Roads and Trails, the King's Highway, 1637 to 1774. Have you seen that?
King's Highway went north to south. Yeah.
That's on the wiki. If maybe you've already seen it.
If you can copy that address and stick it over in the chat window, I'll review it again to make sure that isn't the one I've already seen. Yeah, King's Highway went north to south. It went all up and down the eastern seaboard. And then there were some other highways that came out of eastern New York, Massachusetts, that kind of made their way, but then they stop. And I'm just, as I'm trying to recreate and try and figure out the narrative of how a family got from here to here. It doesn't seem like that far, but it's a big deal in colonial times to get from here to here.
Waterways is also something to consider.
Yeah. That was one of the things they asked after they got to Western New York. They ended up taking the Erie Canal down into Ohio. That I got figured out, but how they got from here to here is something I've been trying to figure out.
Okay.
I can't figure out how to do it on my. I have it on my big computer, but I don't have it on the little computer.
I have an article, maybe more than one, on migration trails, but right off I don't remember where that article is, or if I even for positive saved it. But I got it from a genealogy conference years ago. But more of my information covers post-Revolutionary War than pre-Revolutionary War.
And that's fine. That time frame probably works fine.
The way I got to it is just in the wiki search thing. I just put colonial roads, and that's how I got to whatever.
Okay, great. I'll figure that out then. Thanks.
Okay, good.
Also,
very good
Nancy, you want to mention to them that in September, I'm going to be teaching how I do descendant research, the no empty chairs method.
I said that in my initiatory remarks, but I'll say it again. 2 of our lessons in September are going to be Diane teaching how to make sure that all of your ancestors' children have had their temple work done. And that's called descendancy research.
October, did you mention October too about immigration?
And then in October, she's going to take 2 lessons to teach about how to figure out where your ancestor came from before they came to the United States.
Cool.
And those were planned to be Saturday all morning classes, and instead we're going to do them on Zoom, half a day, or 7 o'clock Sunday night, 2 of the weeks in each month. Okay, so what did I write down? I wrote down where to start, should we call it when you're feeling guilty? what to do. And Mike, were you saying that you had a class you wanted covered? Was I seeing you try to get my attention? Mike? No, okay. Anybody else have any classes that they would like us to do?
Can we get somehow informed about some of those, Nancy?
We are trying, is it Alice asking or Angel?
Yes, it's Alice.
Alice, I have to have Sister Topham send you an email with the topics and the link.
Okay.
Although probably the link will be the same.
Okay.
Are you posting them on the Facebook page?
You could join our Facebook page. Alice and Mark and
You're
Mike,
welcome.
join our Facebook page. It's called Provo Freedom Family History Center. And our classes are listed there. Did you get that, Mike? Can somebody put it in chat?
No, I didn't. What was it before? The word before freedom? If you could repeat that again.
Provo.
Provo.
Our family center, our family history center used to be the Provo South Family History Center, and then they split the stakes, so it became the Freedom Family History Center. Then they found out that it's supposed to be Three Stakes Family History Center, so we changed the name of our website of our Facebook page to Provo Freedom Family History Center.
I put that in the chat for anyone who needs it.
Yeah, thank you.
Doug, I had no idea you had done this much research.
Hey,
Good.
I love it.
Good. Did anybody else have any comments that they wanted to make about which classes they'd like to see? Do you want to do a Photoshop class?
I can help you with that too, in case you need extra help with that.
Okay, Todd Roach has been our teacher in the past, and he's done a good job too.
Cool.
Yes, Nancy, on the Photoshop class.
Okay, then, especially once people get using the high-speed scanner, we're going to need the Photoshop class. So, why don't we do where to start when you're feeling guilty? Why don't we do that next week? Okay?
Yeah, it'll be fine.
So each of you should maybe send me an email or a comment on the Facebook page about where you're at, so that I know where to start the class. Like if your family's already gone back to the 1600s, that class is going to be different than if you're first generation members of the church. My husband just mentioned that one of the ways we can have more people attending this is if we spread the word. And that's a little harder to do when we're not meeting in person. So feel free to tell other people.
I've got to think this will probably be a little easier for some people because they don't have to get up and get to a building on time, and you just walk down in your jammies and you turn on your computer.
Well, and we're even considering the option of, especially these classes that Diane's going to teach in September and October, putting them on YouTube.
Cool.
So we're thinking short classes on YouTube would be better than long classes, but that's what we're thinking.
In the spirit of what you've been talking about tonight, does anybody need connections to the MyHeritage property, which the church also gives you a account for, and the I'm forgetting the other one. The church gives you access to 3 different accounts: Ancestry,
Genenet and Find My Past.
Oh, 6. I stand corrected. Thank you, Sister Rogers.
So those are all.
Brand new one is a French one. It's called Filet. Filet, F-I-L-A-E, I think. They were just advertising it just recently. It's fairly new. It's French, for French.
Oh, I didn't even know about that one.
I think Genenet also has a lot of French.
Yeah.
And a lot of Latin American, I think, or Spanish.
I'm just checking email, and MyHeritage, an update for MyHeritage just popped in. I have one specific person that I communicate with through that, who gives me one specific niche into one very specific line that I have. I don't use MyHeritage for anything, but this one person who knows a whole ton about one small line that I follow.
Wonderful.
MyHeritage
Wonderful.
is good for Scandinavia. If anybody has anything with Scandinavia, I
That's
mean,
good to know.
Ancestry does too. And if you can't, I mean, we do at the Family History Center have the Scandinavian website, but they have a lot on MyHeritage for Scandinavia.
That's great.
So does Joe's.
It's time for the closing prayer, unless anybody has any other comments. And somehow on my screen, I've lost pictures of a lot of you. So I still don't have everybody. I'm trying to decide who to ask to give the closing prayer. Who would like to volunteer to give the closing prayer?